How does it really begin? That invisible moment when a married man starts to feel something he cannot name. It doesn't shout, it whispers. A glance held too long, a word that carries hidden weight, a silence that suddenly feels charged. And you ask yourself, why does it start, even when he already belongs to someone else? This is not only about attraction, it's about the hidden psychology that Carl Jung uncovered. Behind every forbidden desire lives something deeper. Unmet needs, unconscious projections, secret parts of the self that rise when least expected. What begins as a spark can grow into a fire, and often no one understands why until it's too late. In this video, you'll discover the unseen steps that lead to this dangerous beginning. Stay with me until the end, because what you will hear may not only explain his behavior, it may also change how you see yourself, love, and the secret forces that move human desire. The first spark, no one sees. Every beginning hides in the ordinary. It doesn't start with a confession or a dramatic act. It starts quietly, with something so small that most people would dismiss it. A look that lingers longer than it should. A conversation that feels unusually alive. A presence that awakens something he thought was buried. This is the first spark no one sees. Carl Jung often spoke about the unconscious, the part of the mind that carries everything we deny, repress, or forget. For a married man, the unconscious may hold unmet desires, forgotten dreams, or the shadow side of his personality. When he meets someone who reflects these hidden parts back to him, the spark ignites. It is not always about beauty or charm. It is about recognition. The unconscious whispers, "Here is something I've been missing." At first it seems harmless. A shared smile, a moment of laughter, a sense of ease that feels rare. But the soul recognizes what the mind tries to ignore. Jung believed that every attraction carries meaning. It is never random. Something in the other person mirrors a hidden part of the self, and the spark feels magnetic because it connects to what has been neglected. This first spark also thrives in silence. It is the pause after a joke when eyes meet. It is the slight hesitation before saying goodbye. It is the unspoken question, what is this that I'm feeling? On the surface, life goes on unchanged. He goes home, he follows routine, he continues his role, but inside a seed has been planted, and seeds, even when buried, grow. The danger of the spark is that it feels innocent. He tells himself there's nothing wrong. It's just attention, just kindness, just friendship. But the unconscious does not play with logic. What begins as light can deepen into shadow. The more he denies the spark, the more powerful it becomes. What is repressed grows stronger. Jung explained that whatever we resist in ourselves returns with greater force. This is why the first spark, if ignored or hidden, can turn into fire. For the one on the outside, this spark may be invisible. Others don't notice because it hides in subtleties. But for him, the inner world begins to shift. He feels more alive when near, more restless when apart. He starts replaying moments in his head, even though he says they mean nothing. The spark, once lit, begins to write its own story inside him. The first spark no one sees is not about betrayal. Yet, it is about awakening. Something in him wakes up that has been asleep for years. Perhaps desire, perhaps curiosity, perhaps a forgotten longing for connection. And this awakening is powerful because it touches both light and shadow. It feels like a new beginning, even though it threatens to unravel everything that already exists. Jung's wisdom invites us to see this spark not just as temptation, but as a message from the unconscious. It asks, what is missing in his current life? What has been neglected in himself? What need has gone unheard for so long that it now seeks expression in forbidden ways? These are not easy questions, but they reveal the deeper truth behind the spark. The truth is simple. Nothing begins suddenly. Affairs, obsessions, and secret desires all start here, in the invisible spark. It is quiet, it is hidden, but it carries the weight of the unconscious. And once it is lit, it becomes almost impossible to ignore. This is why the first spark no one sees is also the most dangerous. Because what begins in silence has the power to grow in silence until it becomes too strong to hide. And by the time it is visible to the world, the story has already begun long ago, in that single secret moment when two lives touched and something awakened. The pull of what feels missing. After the first spark, something changes inside him. It is not loud, but it is steady. He begins to notice a pull, an invisible attraction that draws him closer not only to the other person, but also to a part of himself he thought was gone. Jung taught that every attraction is also a projection. What feels magnetic in the other person is often something the unconscious longs to recover. For a married man, daily life is often filled with routine. Stability brings comfort, but it can also bring silence. Over time, certain parts of his soul may go unnoticed. His need for adventure, his desire for admiration, his hunger for mystery. These parts do not vanish. They wait in the shadows. And when someone new appears who awakens them, the pull feels irresistible. It is not simply about the other person. It is about what has been missing in himself. This pull can be confusing. On the surface, he may think, "Why am I feeling this? I'm committed. I already have love. I already have a life." But the unconscious is not logical. It seeks wholeness. If he has denied his need for passion, creativity, or attention, the psyche will search for it outside. This is why Jung insisted that what we refuse to live inwardly, we end up chasing outwardly. The pull is not always dramatic. It often grows in small, unnoticed ways. He may look forward to certain conversations more than he should. He may feel energized by attention that seems ordinary to others. He may catch himself thinking about what was said, what was meant, what might be possible. Slowly, the missing parts of his inner world begin to attach themselves to this new connection. But here lies the danger. The pull disguises itself as destiny, when in truth it is projection. He believes he is drawn to the other person, but in reality he is drawn to the reflection of his own neglected self. She becomes a mirror, showing him the vitality, desire, or freedom he has suppressed. And because the unconscious works with symbols, the attraction feels larger than life. It feels fated. It feels inevitable. This sense of inevitability is what makes the pull so powerful. He tells himself that he cannot control it, that it just happened. But nothing just happens. The unconscious prepared the stage long before, storing unmet needs and silent longings. The moment someone appears who embodies them, the pull begins. And if he does not recognize it for what it is, a mirror, he mistakes it for truth. Jung often warned that projections are dangerous if they remain unconscious. When you project your unlived life onto another person, you give them enormous power. They become larger than themselves, carrying your dreams, your wounds, your shadows. And in this process, you lose sight of reality. The married man does not truly see her. He sees the part of himself he has abandoned. That is why the attraction feels so intense, so intoxicating. It is not just her presence. It is his missing self calling back to him. The pull of what feels missing can also create deep conflict. Part of him wants to resist, to stay loyal to his commitments. Another part insists that this pull is too strong to ignore. The more he tries to suppress it, the more it grows. This inner battle is painful because it is not simply about choice. It is about identity. Who is he really? The stable provider, or the restless seeker, the loyal partner, or the man hungry for forgotten fire? In truth, he is both, And that is the core of the problem. Jung taught that wholeness comes when we integrate both sides, not when we deny one. But instead of turning inward and asking what is missing, he often turns outward, chasing the reflection. And in doing so, the pull grows stronger. The truth is this: the attraction does not begin with her, it begins with him. It begins with the empty spaces inside, the neglected parts of his psyche, the unspoken hunger that has been waiting in silence. She is only the trigger, the mirror, the spark. The real source lies within, and unless he dares to face himself, the pull will not stop. Because what feels missing will always call out, whether in forbidden desires, restless dreams, or sudden longings. The soul demands balance, and until it is restored, the pull remains. Before we begin, the Jung Method can help you see the hidden patterns of love and desire. It's a simple guide to bring balance back to your life. The link is pinned in the first comment. The illusion of innocent attention. In the beginning, it never looks dangerous. It feels light, almost harmless. A small compliment, a casual message, a brief moment of kindness. Nothing that anyone would call betrayal. He tells himself it's only conversation, only friendship, only attention. But this is the illusion that makes it so powerful. The belief that something small cannot grow into something larger. Carl Jung reminded us that what we do not make conscious controls us. Innocent attention becomes dangerous when it awakens the unconscious parts he has ignored. A simple exchange of words can stir emotions he has buried for years. The attention feels good, not only because of who gives it, but because it touches the missing places within. And so, what begins as just a smile or just a talk becomes fuel for the fire. This illusion works because it hides behind normality. People around him do not notice. Even he convinces himself there is nothing to worry about. But beneath the surface, his psyche is responding. The unconscious does not see it as small. It sees it as an opening, a door left ajar. And once the door is open, more of his shadow begins to step through. Why does attention feel so intoxicating? Because it confirms his existence. In a routine life where his role is predictable, new attention feels like fresh air. Someone sees him differently, listens in a way that feels alive, notices details others ignore. This awakens a forgotten part of his identity. The part that longs to feel desired, valued, admired. Jung would say the anima, the inner feminine image within every man, stirs when this kind of energy enters. The anima awakens not only desire but also imagination, dreams, and longing. And here lies the danger. The attention feels innocent, but it reshapes his inner world. He starts to replay moments in his mind. He wonders about meanings hidden in words. He checks his phone more often than he admits. Slowly, this harmless attention begins to live rent-free inside him. And when something lives inside the psyche, it grows. The illusion of innocence also silences guilt. He convinces himself he has not crossed any line. I haven't done anything wrong, he thinks, and technically he is right. But Jung's work reminds us that betrayal does not begin with action. It begins with energy. The moment his heart invests in someone else, the path is already shifting. By denying the seriousness of innocent attention, he blinds himself to where it can lead. Another layer of this illusion is secrecy. Because it feels harmless, he sees no need to share it. He keeps the conversations to himself, the thoughts unspoken, the feelings unacknowledged. But secrecy is fertile soil for desire. What is hidden grows stronger. And the more he hides, the more power the illusion gains. This is why so many beginnings go unnoticed. It doesn't start with grand gestures. It starts with shadows disguised as light. Innocent attention feels like nothing until it becomes everything. It feels safe until it becomes addictive. And by the time he realizes it, The web has already been spun around him. The truth is this: there is no such thing as harmless attention when the unconscious is involved. Every look, every word, every pause carries energy, and when that energy touches unmet needs, it plants seeds. The seeds may take time to grow, but once watered by imagination and secrecy, they are unstoppable. Jung would remind us that the key is awareness, to see attention not only as external, but as a mirror of inner hunger. The real question is not, why is she giving me this attention? The real question is, why does my soul crave it so deeply? When this question is asked honestly, the illusion begins to break. But when the illusion remains, it is the perfect trap. It looks too small to matter, yet it carries the power to change everything. That is why the illusion of innocent attention is the most dangerous step of all, because it blinds him to the truth that the story has already begun. When curiosity turns into desire. Curiosity is where everything changes. At first it looks harmless. Questions asked, stories shared, small details exchanged, but slowly curiosity crosses an invisible line. It shifts from wanting to know about her life to wanting to know how life would feel with her in it. And this is the moment when what began as light attention deepens into desire. Carl Jung explained that the unconscious holds not only repressed fears, but also hidden longings. Desire often awakens when something buried inside finally finds a reflection outside. For a married man, curiosity begins with a spark of interest, but it quickly taps into something larger: the hunger for what has been missing within himself. The other person becomes a mirror of vitality, passion, or freedom that he has neglected. Curiosity turns into desire because the unconscious does not stop at questions. It demands experience. This transition is subtle. He may think he only enjoys the conversations, that he's simply drawn to her perspective, her energy, her presence. But when curiosity lingers too long, it feeds imagination. He starts to picture scenarios, to replay words, to imagine possibilities. These private thoughts become fuel for desire. And what was once innocent begins to carry weight. Desire is powerful because it does not stay confined to the mind. It affects the body, the emotions, the energy between two people. The way he looks changes. The way he speaks changes. Even silence feels different, charged, magnetic, heavy with meaning. Jung believed that when energy is repressed in one area of life, it seeks expression elsewhere. Desire is one of the most potent expressions of repressed energy, and once awakened, it rarely returns to sleep quietly. Another danger is that curiosity disguised as desire feels like discovery. He tells himself he is just exploring, just learning, just interested. But in truth, he is stepping deeper into the unconscious. What he calls curiosity is already desire testing its limits. And every new piece of knowledge about her becomes more than information, it becomes intimacy. Desire also thrives in secrecy. The more he keeps it unspoken, the more powerful it becomes. What cannot be said aloud grows stronger in silence. Jung compared the unconscious to a shadow. What we hide gains strength until it demands expression. The desire, left unacknowledged, begins to take control. It shapes his thoughts, his emotions, his actions. He tells himself he is in control. But the truth is, desire is already steering him. The moment curiosity becomes desire is also the moment danger becomes real. Because desire seeks fulfillment. Unlike curiosity, which can be satisfied with answers, desire always wants more. It wants presence, touch, closeness. It transforms the dynamic entirely. What was once casual now carries risk, and once desire is alive, it rarely goes back to being harmless. Jung's perspective teaches us that desire is not only about the other person, it is about the inner world. The question is not, why does he want her? But what does she awaken in him that he has forgotten in himself? Perhaps it is playfulness or freedom or admiration. Whatever it is, desire grows because he sees in her what he longs to reclaim in himself. But here lies the trap. Instead of recognizing this as an inner need, he projects it outward. He believes she is the source of the desire, when in truth, she is only the trigger. The real source lies within him. This confusion is why desire feels so uncontrollable. He thinks it is about her, when it is actually about his own neglected soul. When curiosity turns into desire, the path ahead narrows. Choices become heavier, consequences more real. And yet, in the heat of desire, logic weakens. The unconscious pulls stronger than reason. And unless he confronts the truth, that desire is a mirror, he risks stepping further into a story he cannot easily undo. The transformation from curiosity to desire is the moment where everything begins to accelerate. It is no longer a game, no longer harmless attention. It is the birth of a force that can reshape his choices, his relationships, his life. And once awakened, desire does not fade quietly. It demands to be faced, one way or another. The secret energy that grows in silence. What happens when desire is never spoken aloud? It does not vanish, it grows. It feeds on silence, on imagination, on the unspoken tension between two people. Every glance, every pause, every unfinished sentence becomes fuel. The energy between them thickens, and although nothing may be confessed, everything is already felt. This is how secrecy gives birth to its own power. Carl Jung taught that what we repress does not disappear. It gathers strength in the unconscious. Silence becomes the perfect soil for hidden energy to grow. The married man tells himself that since nothing has been said or done, there is no danger. But inside, the fire is already spreading. Each day without words makes the attraction more intense, not less. The forbidden quality of it all adds to the charge, making the silence feel electric. This secret energy is dangerous because it is invisible to others. On the outside, nothing has changed. Daily routines continue. Conversations look ordinary. Life appears normal. But beneath the surface, his inner world is shifting. He thinks about her at unexpected times. He replays interactions, adding meaning where none was spoken. The silence becomes a stage where imagination runs free, and imagination often burns hotter than reality. Jung described this as projection, the unconscious attaching itself to another person. In silence, projection thrives. Because nothing has been defined, she becomes whatever his soul longs for: comfort, passion, freedom, adventure. She is no longer just herself. She is a canvas painted with his hidden desires. And the more he projects onto her, the less he sees reality. The silence allows fantasy to grow unchecked. Another reason the secret energy grows so strong is that secrecy creates intimacy. What is hidden feels sacred. The fact that no one else knows makes the connection feel special, exclusive, unique. He convinces himself that what they share is different, more meaningful than anything else. But in truth, the intimacy comes not from reality, but from the secrecy itself. This energy also feeds on small rituals, the way their eyes meet across a room, the way conversations pause with a smile, the way his heart beats faster at the sound of her voice. These moments look ordinary to others, but to him they feel extraordinary. And the more ordinary they appear on the outside, the more extraordinary they feel inside. Silence magnifies everything. The secret energy is also addictive. He begins to crave the moments of contact, no matter how small. A message, a passing word, a shared joke, each one sends a rush of emotion. And when those moments are absent, he feels restless, distracted, even empty. The silence that once seemed safe now chains him to a cycle of craving. Jung would remind us that this is not just about her. It is about his own unconscious seeking wholeness. The secret energy is a mirror of what he has denied in himself. It feels powerful because it carries the force of everything he has repressed: desire, vulnerability, longing. And the more he refuses to face these within, the more he pours them into the silence between them. The danger is clear. Silence creates a bond stronger than words, because nothing has been spoken, nothing has been limited. In imagination, anything is possible, and the unconscious, once unleashed, does not obey reason. It pulls him further and further until the line between thought and action begins to blur. This is why so many stories of betrayal begin not with touch, but with silence. The silence that grows heavy, magnetic, irresistible. The silence that carries energy stronger than any confession. The silence that feels safer than words, but in truth is far more dangerous. The truth is this: secret energy is never harmless. It grows, it spreads, it consumes. And unless it is faced with awareness, it eventually demands expression. Jung would say the unconscious does not rest until it is integrated. That means one way or another, the silence will break, either through destructive choices or through the courage to confront what it really means. The question is, will he recognize the silence for what it is, a mirror of his own unmet needs, or will he let it grow until it leads him into a story he never intended to write? The point where boundaries start to fade. Every story has a turning point, and in this one, it comes when boundaries, once firm and clear, begin to blur. At the start, there are rules, spoken or unspoken. He tells himself, "I won't cross that line," but slowly the line shifts. What was once unacceptable begins to look harmless. What was once forbidden begins to look possible. And this is how boundaries fade, not with one great leap, but with many small steps. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious works in gradual movements. It rarely erupts all at once. Instead, it seeps into life little by little until the change is undeniable. For a married man, the fading of boundaries often begins with rationalizations. It's just a conversation. It's just coffee. It's just a message. Each just pushes the line further. What he once would not allow now feels safe, even justified. This slow erosion is dangerous because it disguises itself as control. He believes he is still in charge, that he knows where to stop. But the truth is, every step makes it harder to turn back. The unconscious grows stronger, desire deepens, and the sense of balance weakens. Jung warned that the shadow, once ignored, gains power. And in these moments, the shadow takes the lead, quietly moving the lines he once swore he would not cross. Boundaries also fade because of emotional investment. The more he shares with her, stories, feelings, secrets, the closer the bond becomes. Emotional intimacy often precedes physical intimacy. By the time touch happens, the line was already crossed long before. The heart crossed it, the mind crossed it, the silence crossed it. What looks sudden from the outside has been building, slowly in the inner world for a long time. Another reason boundaries fade is the thrill of secrecy. The fact that no one knows creates both fear and excitement. Secrecy adds fuel to desire, making the bond feel stronger. He convinces himself that this hidden connection is special, different, even necessary. But in truth, the secrecy itself is what intensifies it, and secrecy always weakens boundaries because it gives the illusion of safety. If no one knows, it doesn't matter. The fading of boundaries also brings conflict. Part of him wants to resist, to stop before going further. Another part whispers that it's too late, that the pull is too strong. This inner battle is painful, but often the side of desire grows louder than the side of caution. Jung explained that when we live split between opposites, the side we repress always fights harder to be heard. and in this case, the repressed side, the neglected desires, becomes the dominant voice. This is also the stage where excuses begin to form. He may start comparing what he feels now to what he feels at home. He convinces himself that his needs are not met, that his marriage has lost its spark, that he deserves more. While these thoughts may hold fragments of truth, they are also shaped by the projection of the unconscious. The attraction outside does not simply reveal what is lacking in the relationship. It reveals what is lacking inside himself. The point where boundaries fade is often invisible to him. He does not notice the exact moment when the shift occurs. Only later, when consequences arrive, does he look back and see how far he stepped. This is why awareness is so important. Jung would say that bringing the unconscious into consciousness is the only way to regain control. Without awareness, the shadow takes the lead, and boundaries vanish in silence. The danger is not only for him, it is for everyone connected to him. A fading boundary does not only affect one relationship, it ripples outward. Trust weakens, honesty breaks, and even if nothing physical has happened yet, the emotional betrayal already exists. Desire, once hidden, begins to leave traces. The people around may sense the shift even if they cannot explain it. The truth is clear. Boundaries rarely break suddenly. They dissolve slowly under the weight of desire, secrecy, and projection. And once they are gone, it is far more difficult to rebuild them. What begins as curiosity becomes attachment, and what begins as silence becomes fire. This is the moment where choices matter most. He can step back, confront the truth, and face the shadow within, or he can continue forward, letting the lines blur until they vanish completely. Jung would remind us that every shadow must be faced sooner or later. If not now, then later, through consequences far heavier than the silence that once seemed safe. The battle between guilt and desire. Once boundaries begin to fade, an inner war erupts. On one side, guilt speaks loudly. It reminds him of vows, of loyalty, of the life he has already built. On the other side, desire burns, whispering that he cannot resist, that what he feels is too strong, too alive to ignore. This battle is one of the most painful stages because both sides feel equally real, equally demanding. Carl Jung described such moments as the clash between the conscious and the unconscious. The conscious mind clings to order, rules, and commitments. The unconscious pulls toward shadow, longing, and unmet needs. When the two collide, the psyche is torn in two directions, and the more he resists desire, the stronger it becomes. Jung often said, "What you resist persists." Guilt shows itself in countless ways. He may feel restless at home, unable to look into the eyes of his partner without feeling a secret burn inside. He may wake at night with racing thoughts, caught between shame and longing. He may withdraw emotionally, afraid that any slip will reveal what he carries. This guilt is heavy, but it is also proof that part of him still wants to honor what is right. Desire, however, is relentless. It brings with it a rush of life that guilt cannot match. Desire tells him that he feels more alive in those secret moments than in years of routine. It convinces him that what he has found is real, urgent, and worth the risk. And so, even as guilt drags him back, desire pulls him forward. He becomes caught in a storm that feels impossible to escape. This battle also shapes his behavior. Sometimes guilt wins, and he pulls away, becoming distant, cold, or defensive. Other times desire wins, and he leans closer, breaking rules in small steps, each one harder to undo. This push and pull creates confusion not only in him, but in everyone around him. His moods shift, his focus drifts, his actions lose consistency. The war inside begins to show outside. Jung would say that this conflict reveals the power of the shadow. The more he tries to deny desire, the more control it gains. The shadow does not vanish when ignored. it grows stronger. True freedom only comes when he confronts it directly, asking, "What part of myself have I abandoned that is now screaming for life?" Until he faces this truth, guilt and desire will continue their battle without peace. Another dimension of this war is self-justification. To ease guilt, he may begin to create stories in his mind. "I deserve this. My partner doesn't understand me. This is not betrayal, it's connection." These rationalizations quiet guilt temporarily, but they also give desire more room to grow. And with each justification, the line between right and wrong becomes harder to see, but guilt has its own shadow. Too much guilt can paralyze him, making him feel worthless, broken, or trapped. When guilt becomes overwhelming, it can drive him deeper into desire as an escape. The more shame he feels, the more he seeks relief in the very thing that caused it. This cycle is destructive. Guilt feeds desire, desire feeds guilt, and the battle never ends. Jung's wisdom shows a way out: integration. Instead of denying guilt or desire, he must acknowledge both. Desire points to what is missing inside, to the parts of himself he has neglected. Guilt points to the values he still holds, to the commitments he does not want to betray. Both voices carry truth. To listen to one and silence the other is to remain divided. To bring both into awareness is the first step toward wholeness. The battle between guilt and desire is not simply about choice, it is about identity. Who is he when no one is watching? Who does he want to become? Will he let shadow rule his life in secret, or will he face it, integrate it, and learn from it? Jung believed that true growth comes from facing the darkest parts of ourselves, not from pretending they don't exist. The truth is this: guilt and desire are not enemies, but signals. Desire shows where life is missing. Guilt shows where integrity still lives. If he can see them both clearly, he can step out of the battle and into awareness. But if he lets them fight in silence, he risks being torn apart, living in two worlds. Until both collapse, this stage is the most crucial, because here he still has a choice. Once action overtakes him, choice narrows. But in the battle between guilt and desire, he can still turn inward, still face the unconscious, still decide who he will be. And that decision will shape not only his future, but also the lives of everyone connected to him. The choice that defines everything. Every path eventually arrives at a point of decision. After the spark, the pull, the silence, the fading of boundaries, and the battle between guilt and desire, there comes a moment where he must choose. The unconscious has played its part, the shadow has spoken, but now the responsibility rests with him. This choice will not only define his actions, it will define who he becomes. Carl Jung believed that life is shaped by the confrontation with the shadow. We cannot escape it, but we can choose what to do with it. When a married man finds himself at this crossroads, he faces two directions. One leads deeper into secrecy, into betrayal, into a life split between two worlds. The other leads inward toward awareness, honesty, and the painful but liberating work of integration. The choice is not easy, but it is necessary. On the surface, the decision may look simple: act or don't act, cross the line or walk away. But beneath it lies something deeper. The real choice is not between two people, it is between two versions of himself. One version abandons responsibility, surrendering to unconscious drives. The other faces the truth, even if it brings discomfort, even if it demands change. Jung would say this is the difference between living unconsciously and living consciously. The weight of this choice is heavy because it touches every layer of life. If he chooses shadow without awareness, consequences will follow. Broken trust, fractured love, a divided self. Even if desire is satisfied, the emptiness remains, because the inner hunger has not been truly faced. What he chased outside was always a reflection of what was missing inside, and so the satisfaction fades, leaving more confusion than before. If he chooses awareness, the path is not easy, but it is transformative. It requires him to ask hard questions. What am I missing in my life? Why did this attraction feel so powerful? What part of myself have I denied for so long that it rose in such a forbidden way? These questions demand courage, but they also lead to growth. They turn shadow into teacher and temptation into truth. The choice also redefines love itself. Real love cannot survive in half-truths and secrecy. To love authentically means to bring all parts of oneself into the light, even the broken, longing, or restless parts. Choosing consciously does not erase desire, but it transforms it. Instead of chasing it in destructive ways, he can learn from it, integrate it, and bring its energy back into his life and relationships in a healthier form. Jung wrote that, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This is the essence of the final choice. Without awareness, he will continue to believe that what happened just began by accident, that he was powerless. But with awareness, he sees the truth. It did not just begin, it began within. And because it began within, he has the power to face it, to transform it, and to choose differently. This is why the final choice is not only about him, it is about everyone connected to him, his partner, his family, his own sense of identity. But more than that, it is about his soul. To live unconsciously is to live divided, always at war within. To live consciously is to live whole, even if it means carrying the pain of honesty. The truth is this: the story never truly begins with someone else. It begins with the self. The spark, the pull, the desire, the silence, they are all reflections of what lives inside. And in the end, the choice is not about betraying another, but about betraying or honoring himself. So when he reaches this point, the question is not simply what will he do? The question is, who will he be? Will he remain a prisoner of his shadow, or will he face it and grow? Will he choose the illusion of forbidden desire or the reality of integration and wholeness? Carl Jung would remind us that the journey of the soul is not about avoiding darkness, but about walking through it with open eyes. And in this final choice lies the opportunity to do exactly that, to stop calling shadow fate and to start calling it truth, because in the end, it is not desire or guilt that defines him. It is the choice he makes, and that choice will echo through every part of his life.